Hello and welcome back to Azure Terraformer. Last episode we set up Azure Diagnostics. This episode we're going to continue exploring our Azure Linux virtual machine in the portal and see what other trouble we can get into. See what things the GUI wants to set up for us with all the bad ways, and how we could learn from that by falling into those traps and then automating it through Terraform. So without further ado, let's pop in the portal and see what else we can do. Now this VM should have everything that we had in episode 38. We have my diagnostic settings. We have all those syncs for blob storage and table storage and Azure Monitor and all that stuff. Now let's click on logs. Now you might think that this would be enabled, but apparently it's not, because we have that GUI again. So let's see what this thing wants to do. If we smash enable, we're going to see, okay, we're going to enable insights using Azure Monitor Agent. We have to select a subscription, and it's going to create this resource called a data collection rule, and it's going to give us some whack job name here, and it's going to have guest performance enabled, process and dependencies map disabled, and it's going to use a log analytics workspace of default whack job name here. So it's a trap, confirmed. Let's fall into that trap on purpose and let's see what it deploys. Okay, deployment succeeded. Let's go to the resource group and let's check our deployments and see what it did. So it looks like let me go to the template, and it looks like we are provisioning, what is this? A virtual machine extension, okay? And we have these properties. That'll be interesting to look at. And then we have this thing, which is a DCR association. Now, it's somehow using a DCR ID here. So maybe I've already provisioned one of these things. Let's go look at the parameters to see what could possibly be the value here. So the virtual machine resource ID is this. That looks good. And the DCR ID. So it does look like we have a data collection rule by this name. So if I grab this address here, so we have a data collection rule. So this data collection rule got dumped into this nasty resource group that doesn't follow naming conventions, which really bothers me. And so it's just called default resource group, EUS. Okay, that definitely triggers my OCD a little bit. So what do I want to do? I want to go look at this deployment and see how I can fix this. So I'm going to go look at how this thing got here the way it was. And I can say I got this data collection rule, and I got a bunch of stuff in it that I may, want to set. Okay. So it looks like the first thing that I need to do is I need this data collection rule. The data collection rule has a data source. It has these performance counters, and then I have to link it to a workspace ID, which is my log analytics workspace, and then I just have these data flows, and it looks like it's just these magic strings inside here. VMInsights perf logs destination, which I don't really see that. Oh, so apparently this data flow has this destination right here, which maps to this this is the log analytics workspace. So the destination is my log analytics workspace. So if we're playing connect the dots, we start from our stream, which is this insight metrics, okay, which we name up here. And then it gets sent to this destination, and this destination is defined here, and it sends it to this log analytics workspace ID. Connect the dots. Fun times. So let's go and look at our log analytics workspace. Let's go look at the Azure Terraform provider to see if we can find what this thing. It's a data collection rule. Okay. So data collection rule. All right, there we go. So we have one of those things, and somewhere we'll have one of those things. And whoa, it's got a lot of stuff. It looks like we have destinations. That looks familiar. We have multiple types of blocks that can go into destinations. One is a log analytics workspace, which I have one of those, so that should be fine. And then we've got a data flow. And what else do we have? We have data sources, which I may need to go consult the Oracle and go back and look at that thing. So wow, this is a massive example. It's got probably way more stuff than I need. So I'm going to copy pasta this, but we're going to trim this thing down. And it does look like I need an endpoint. So it looks like I need to drop this endpoint somewhere. So let's start with that. So the first thing I need to do is, I think this is a shared resource that needs to go in my observability stack. So I'm going to open up my observability stack. So I've got my log analytics workspace here. What should we call this? This is my Azure Monitor data collection stuff. So, I don't know, maybe just like monitor. A lot of times, like if there's Azure Monitor resources, I'll just dump it into a file called monitor.tf. So this is my data collection endpoint. I don't know if I need more than one, or if one per region. I would imagine it's got to be in the same region as my log analytics workspace. Yeah, so create before destroy, true, interesting. And let's look in here, data collection endpoint. So it's DCR. So I guess we could use, there's no guidance on endpoint, but I'm just gonna, it's got one in the name there. I'm just gonna move it, instead of being a suffix, I'm gonna move it to the prefix, and we're gonna figure out what should go in there. And I think it should be the application name, the environment name. So we're gonna copy pasta that in there. And I'm feeling good about this. I'm gonna have to look into why the example, has this there. I'm not sure if that's something specific to this resource, why it's necessary. And there were hyphens in the old name, so I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so I've got my data collection endpoint. Now let's go and look at my data collection rule. Now this thing is going to be huge, Jerry. Tons of stuff in here. This is legit it. That's it. Holy cow, man. So here it is in all its majestic glory. I'm going to drop this thing down. It seems like I'm going to have more than one of these, but for right now, I'm just going to call it main. And this is going to have a DCR, data collection rule. And for lack of a better name, I don't know. I'm just going to call it default for right now. Okay. And we'll play it by ear a little bit here. So I need my endpoint. I got my endpoint. And now is where I need to go look at what was deployed and kind of figure this thing out. So what do we have here? So this is my data collection rule. I've got a data source. Let's just copy the entire properties block and dump it somewhere that we can see. So now let's look at this. So I have a data source. And I have destinations. So let me just clean up the destinations. I don't need all this crap. Azure Monitor Metrics. That sounds fun. For right now, though, I don't see an Azure Monitor Metrics destination there. So I'm just gonna delete that for the time being. I only want exactly what I've got in here. And so I do have a log analytics workspace, which I'm going to assume is called main. Yep. And so I need to go update this guy. So got my log analytics workspace ID. And we can probably just call that the log, whatever. So that's our workspace. All right, so I'm just going to delete this. Actually, it's kind of important. This name has to match what's in my data flow, right? So, I like how it's got VMInsights perf. So maybe we'll just, instead of giving it some funky name, let's just leave it VMInsights perf, and we'll just call it logs. Yeah, let's keep it. Let's keep this. Okay. All right. So now in my data flow, I need a stream which is called this Microsoft Insight Metrics. Oh, it's already there. Wonderful. Wunderbar. And then I need this hard-coded name right here. So I'm going to put that in there. I assume this is correct in that these are string arrays, and I don't need, I don't know why there's so many bazillions of data sources here. Now, I mean, these look really juicy. Of course, they do look kind of oriented towards Windows, but they look very useful. So I may have to revisit this in the future. But for the time, so this is where we have our data sources here. So I got a little trigger happy with the delete key. So I've got my data flows, I've got my destinations. Now I need my data sources. Okay, now this is where it's going to get really important. So perf counter, performance counters. So I've got syslog, I've got islog. That's definitely a Windows thing. I've got log files. It looks like it's hitting something Java related. Let's get rid of all this stuff. I know that's not relevant. So now here I got a performance counter. Now that's interesting. The structure is different than, because it's a block. It's not like the virtual machine extension where we're just blindly taking a mass of JSON. So whoever wrote this resource has done a pretty good job of converting it into Terraform. Right now, I definitely don't need my stream declaration, so we're going to get rid of that. I don't know if I need. Clearly, I'm assuming I don't need an identity. I could set this up later, but I mean, what was provisioned doesn't have an identity, so I think we're good there. And the log analytics solution, that's interesting. I don't think that's related. Yeah. So, but we do need a description. And so I'm just going to call this. And now let's go tidy this up. So we have, what do we have here? We have streams, and that is an array. And it looks like we just have Microsoft Insight Metrics. So I'm going to get rid of this. And then, so there's my streams. Now, there must be a name. Yep, so the name is down here, so I'm just going to throw the name in. The name is going to tick and tie. And then, so we've got counter specifiers. That's kind of fun. So this is different. So the original counter specifier looks very Windows-esque. I'm just going to throw that out there. And then we've got a sampling frequency in seconds. And then we have a scheduled transfer period, which does not exist. So I'm going to have to go RTFM and see what property that is. So let's go back here and let's go look for performance counter block. Not quite. And then sampling frequency in seconds. We already got that. So interesting. We do not have this attribute. All we have is streams, sampling frequency in seconds, and counter specifiers. That's it. So we've encountered this is a little bit concerning, right? This is kind of an edge case where the Terraform resource may not fully support what we're trying to do. So the question is this a required field for this particular counter specifier? The documentation, I'm sure, if we go and look at this, it would probably tell us. But for right now, I'm just gonna leave it, and we're gonna cross our fingers and say a prayer. So, okay, lag. Okay, so we have the destination matching up, the stream is matching up. This is making sense. Okay, I have a syslog here. I think I can get rid of that. Okay, we don't need that. All right. Was it a performance counter? That is a good question. I guess I have that file available to me, right? It was a performance counter. Okay, just checking. Okay, so I've got my rule, and let's just call this VMInsights. Okay. And we'll call this VMInsights. And that's what we're going to do here. Okay. So let me set this up. So I'm going to run this pipeline against this feature branch. And we are having problems. Unsupported data collection endpoint is not expected here. Let's check what version of the provider we're using. So we're on 3.4.1. Let's go check if this thing even existed in 3.4.1. So there's a data collection rule, data collection endpoint ID. Does not exist. Wow. So yeah, we may have to upgrade to the latest version. So let's go do that. And let's see what happens. Upgrade. Upgrade. Okay. So it likes the upgrade. No problems. It likes the endpoint now. No problems. We have a data collection rule called VMInsights. I'm not super happy because I don't know if this needs to be globally unique within the subscription. If it does, I may run into problems later, but like when I deploy to prod. So let's try it for now, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there to prod. More and more, I'm feeling certain that I need to add the environment name to that rule. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna smash this onto my rule name, and all my rules are going to just have a prefix of this observability dev. And it looks like, yep, we're going to just replace this because we're changing the name. Let's go approve. Okay, it's done. So now we have our data collection rule with VMInsights on it, and we have it named nicely. So now in our solution for episode 39, let's go pop over there and let's go see what we got to do to get this thing rolling. And we go look at deployments. What we're really doing is we're going to be adding a data collection rule association to this virtual machine name. So let's go look at the rule association, which we have right here. That's nice, isn't it? And so we need to have a need to have a data collection endpoint ID, and then we need to have a target resource ID. Interesting. Shouldn't we have a rule ID? Yeah. So we should probably have both of those. Not sure why they don't have. So here's the rule association. Okay. So this is what we want. We want a data collection rule association. Gosh, that's a mouthful, right? Am I right? So let's add a new file here called monitor. We're not gonna encapsulate this into our module just quite yet. So we're just gonna say, I don't know, man, monitor, and let's just drop the host name of the VM on here. So we're gonna say module.that.hostname. And we need the virtual machine ID. So we're just going to grab the module.id. And then we need a data collection rule. And we can get a data collection rule using a data source right here. So I'm going to go grab this data source and drop it right like so. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to DCR VMInsights. Actually, let's just call it VMInsights. Okay. Now, here's the fun part. I'm going to have to upgrade this to 3.53 as well. And where do we go here? In order to reference all this stuff, I'm assuming. So now, what is the name of the rule that I created? So the name of the rule, if I go look at my let's go look at my observability dev. So here is my buddy. This is my data collection rule. So the name is this. So I can snag that. And I'm pretty sure I feel like I'm good just hard coding that, right? And I think I'm pretty good hard coding the RG as well, because this is like a well-known resource group. Of course, it's just going to be that. So now I need the data collection rule, and it's called VMInsights. And what did they call the association when they created it? Do I have that open still? And it's just called association of blah, blah, blah. Okay. Very creative. Missing the A in association. So I got my Linux VM ID. I got my data collection rule ID. And I am doing all the things. Let me rename this thing to VMInsights. Okay. And what else do I provision in here? I also provision a virtual machine extension. Now, this would probably be a good one for me to create a module for. So I'm going to go to my modules. I'm going to go to because I already have a folder for this. And I'm going to call this Azure Monitor, because I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I'm just going to grab these values. Yeah, it's the Azure Monitor extension. Perfect. So now in my Azure Monitor, I need a temporary place where I can set some stuff. Main.tf sounds like a wonderful place. We're going to drop that stuff in there. I'm going to go snag all this stuff here because it's pretty much going to be the same. Of course, a lot of these things will change, I would imagine, because it doesn't look like we really need any of these things. And let's upgrade the version. Let me go grab my virtual machine extension. This got a little hairy, didn't it? I don't even know if we need protected settings. Looking at what was deployed, I don't even see settings set. So I think I can drop both of these. This is going to be like the most nothing burger virtual machine extension ever. I just need to get the stuff right. So the publisher is going to be Microsoft.Azure Monitor, which probably overkill there. The type handler version is not going to be Linux diagnostic. That's parameterized, which just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why make something harder to understand is beyond me. There it is. Azure Monitor Linux Agent. That was way too stressful. And then the type handler version, okay, is probably going to be AMA extension version. Yep, 1.0. Beautiful. So AMA extension version, I can get rid of all this stuff. Auto upgrade minor version set to true. Okay, so I have a new version. Let's clean this up. I don't need any of this stuff. I guess I do need a name. I need a name and a virtual machine ID. That's it. And the rest is pretty much critical path. Now this is Linux, so maybe what I should do is I should say Linux Azure Monitor to kind of keep them all together, right? Okay, so let's add this. Now let's go consume that module from my project. Now in my compute, I think I attached Linux diag. I guess I should probably leave it in here with compute, even though this is getting a little nasty. I should probably refactor this a little bit. This is, you know, we'll clean this up sometime. And we need to go v12. And we really don't need any of these things anymore. I should probably give this a nice different name. There we go. Okay, so we're going to attach a virtual machine extension. We're going to create a data collection rule association between the virtual machine. Maybe I need to have a depends on for the virtual machine extension to get this working. Let's find out. So let me run a init here. So could not retrieve list of versions of provider, lock provider. So do I'm 3.4. Do my modules like not support future versions? Have I been being a baddie? Let's try upgrading. Okay, we got problems. Did I do a typo? Oh, it's a data source, isn't it? Of course it is. Uh-oh. We have some problems. That's a bad sign. Let's go look at the portal and see what happened. Oh, Lord. So it didn't like my name. I gave it a funky name, and it just changed the name. So I wonder if that's the problem right off the bat. Like it must have this as the name, and the funky name that I gave it, it's not a fan of. I guarantee you if I rerun this, I'm going to get one of those errors where Basically, resource needs to be, I'm upgrading again. Lord. Resource needs to be imported. Let's try and see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't take 3 minutes again. I can go out to the portal and I can connect to the VM. I should probably go pull up log analytics. We're just going to check the heartbeat. So there is a heartbeat. So it did get installed, but Terraform's just not happy. Terraform thinks it didn't get installed. This can happen, right? Virtual machine extensions are a little bit quirky when working with Terraform. By their nature, they're kind of designed to be deleted and recreated, right? Because they're kind of modular in that way. Compartmentalized might be a better word, but I'm going to delete this sucker. I'm not happy with this behavior. I gave it a clear instruction of what the name of the virtual machine extension should be, and it pretty much ignored me and just said, I like the name Azure Monitor Linux Agent better. And Terraform doesn't like that because Terraform is going to register the name that I specify in that field in Terraform state. And what's probably happening is Terraform is probably checking for a virtual machine extension by the name that I gave it, and it can't find it because Azure was like, okay. You want it to be named that? That's cool, but I don't like that name. So I'm just going to name it whatever the heck I want, but I will deploy it for you on your behalf. But Terraform is perpetually like querying Azure, like, are you done with that one with the name of ABC? And Azure's like, no, I don't know any ABC. Nothing to see here. Because Azure went and gave it a totally different name. So I'm not sure like where the bug is. It seems like this would be like an ARM REST API bug as opposed to a Terraform provider bug. Because the Terraform provider, and you can see in the ARM template, there's a name. And they pass in a name value. So the REST API has that attribute on the schema. It's probably just not handling it. Like whatever you pass in there, the provider is just like the ARM provider that's responsible for provisioning the virtual machine extension is just ignoring whatever you specify as the name and just using a default, which if you are not, see, and look at that. It worked perfectly when I used the name that Azure was going to use by default. So let's go look at this thing. All right. And there it is in all its glory. Now, there's a couple ways you can check. You saw me do one. You can log into your log analytics workspace and just smash the heartbeat. And it's there. And it'll be poking, poke, right? Another thing that you can do is you can log into the VM. So I'm going to go connect to the VM. And once you're in the VM, you just want to do a system cuddle status Azure Monitor Agent. And there you go. It's active and running. So there we go. As you can see, today we just set up the Azure Monitor Agent. This is the third virtual machine extension or observability component that we've added. We added boot diagnostics, which I don't think needed a virtual machine extension, but then we added Azure Monitor Diagnostics, which piped a bunch of logs and metrics to table storage, blob storage, and potentially Event Hub if we wanted. And then we just now today, we set up the Azure Monitor agent, which pipes logs to our log analytics workspace so that we can go query and have a good time in there. So yeah, that's it. Last thing I want to do is I just want to go to the portal and go to the logs page and see that, hey, we actually see stuff. And if we go in here, we can see the heartbeat and we can see all the things. And, we no longer have that GUI that is like, hey, newbie, like this hasn't been set up before. Why don't you let me set it up poorly on your behalf? With Terraform, we can, once we know how to configure these services, we can set it up one time. You saw in this episode, we added the data collection rule and the data collection endpoint to our observability stack, which again, we're going to continue to grow and evolve as we enhance our observability stack for our subscription, to have that shared resource in there. And then from our project, our application, episode 39, it's my little lab, the episode 39 lab, we just needed to create a rule association and add a virtual machine extension. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like. And if you are enjoying the channel or you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It really helps the channel. And, we'd love to see you back here so that we can learn more about Azure and Terraform together. And when you do, please smash that bell so that you know when my next video drops. I usually drop new content on Tuesdays and Thursdays just to mix it up during the week. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time here on Azure Terraform.